let's go across town to finish up here, and if I set the over under, get maybe some cathartic takes on the way out. If I set the over under at 1.5 over of these last three guys, 1.5 firings at these last three schools next year. Would you take the over and under? I'm talking about USC with Lincoln Riley, Wisconsin with Luke Fickell, and Maryland with Mike Locksley.
Wow.
I think one is a given. So that's why I set the line at 1.5. Yeah. I think one of those three will, not saying which one, but one of those three will.
I think I'm going to take the over.
I think, can I get a push? Can just half a coach be fired? I think I'd also take the over. I think Locksley would be, my opinion, the most obvious.
I agree.
I think he's in trouble. They're coming off their worst season since I think his first season there. I don't know, man. Like I want to say Fickell has a grace because he's both transfer portal quarterbacks he's brought in back-to-back years. Mordecai injured, and then Tyler Van Dyke, out for the season, like against Bama, and you don't know what the season could have been. They if they have a quarterback this year, they knock off Penn State and Oregon. They beat them both. And then what are we talking about? Luke Fickell's feeling pretty damn good at this point. They always play defense. Fickell teams always will. I just worry that I'm going to say over because I think Fickell truly is there. I think Lincoln Riley's buyout might be too big if he stinks to get him out of there. And just the fact that how good he is with quarterbacks, I don't know what's going to happen with Maeva, but if he's got something in the pipeline to come through, we know what he does with quarterbacks. We know what his system looks like. I don't know, they're bringing in Rob Ryan, I don't know, all these other dudes that try to do something. I give him the props. He's making the change that I don't feel like he did at Oklahoma, but I would say over 1.5, and it being Fickell and Locksley probably on the hotter seats.
Yeah, I feel like if Lincoln Riley's buyout was not a thing, he might have gotten fired this year. I have nothing to base that on other than my own personal speculation. But if they go 7-5 again next year, it's not because it's not the AD who hired him anymore. They're at that stage of his tenure where they're just throwing money around to bring in names and people to try to do something different. Like they tripled Notre Dame's GM salary to come in, and this is a guy who got the promotion to GM last year, and by all accounts wasn't the best at. Like his recruiting is really good. Can he be a GM? Maybe not. Has Rob Ryan done anything notable in 10 years? I don't know. It's just like the whole vibe with USC just feels so weird that you bring this guy in and you're pulled a hamstring in the Pac-12 title game away from playing in the playoff in your first season. And then they start 6-0 the year after, and they've gone, God, you're going to make me do math now. Since then, they've gone, 7-12 since then or something like that? That's just not great. That's not great at all. And now we're talking about them playing in the Big Ten. It's not the Pac-12 anymore. It just feels like if there's not a big step forward there, a sign of progress, that becomes an untenable situation. Money be damned. I don't know what to make of Fickell. I feel like I'm kind of like baking Locksley's getting fired into this equation. If you're betting over under on win totals, bet the over on Maryland because we just spoke that into existence. But part of me feels like Wisconsin's going to give Fickell some grace because it's Wisconsin, and we're talking about the patience of these teams in the North being a little bit more prevalent than in the South, but it's also a Wisconsin program that fired Paul Chryst midseason, and I think that caught just about everyone off guard. And now in this new Big Ten where they can't be, the best of the Big Ten West, where they're going 9-3, 10-2 every year by taking advantage of playing those, the Northwestern, Minnesota, Nebraska, these teams that have been, it's certainly not like playing in the East when you're Michigan getting Ohio State and Penn State every year. And now you have these more what potentially could be unbalanced schedules. I think that, I don't know if we want to call it a reckoning, but I think Wisconsin might be getting to a point where they're having to have some uncomfortable internal conversations about what their place is in this new look Big Ten if they don't take a big step forward this year. because you don't just get to prey on the little guys anymore. It's just you're kind of a victim to whatever your draw is. And I don't think their draw is particularly favorable next year. Plus, you have to go to Alabama. Like, that's going to be tough. Like, it's not setting up well for Luke Fickell in 2025. And now you're completely changing the offense again for a second time in 3 years. That's just, again, if we're talking about desperation, it just feels like we're at the grasping at straws phase and trying to, get whatever we can on this sinking ship to stay afloat.
You hit on exactly what I was going to say there at the end. Is I just don't know what Wisconsin's identity is.
Mhm.
You're right. Luke Fickell's always going to play defense, but I couldn't tell you when they were in their heyday, when they had things going 10, 15 years ago, you knew exactly what you were going to get from Wisconsin, and nobody could stop it, right?
Mhm.
And year after year, they'd have a new running back that was going to push for 2,000 yards, and you knew exactly what they were going to do. But I just don't know what they are good at offensively. And a lot of that is the quarterback situation, the injuries that they've had. That's really unfortunate, but just got to find something to cling to from an identity standpoint if you're on the offensive side of the ball there, and hope for the best, because, yeah, you're right. You're not in the Big Ten West anymore. It's going to be much more difficult to have those big breakthrough years.
Gracious him. How about that?